Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to discuss with you all of the books that I managed to read in the month of July. We will do little book reviews for each and individual book that I managed to finish. However, we will also look at some stats. That's usually how I like to begin this video. So yeah, let's look at some numbers, let's review some books, let's see how I did in this reading month. And if you have been here for a while, you might have heard me say in June that it was quite a challenging month for me, and we're not exactly over it yet. July felt like the longest month for me because things that happen at the beginning of July don't even feel real to me anymore. On the other hand, it also passed by very, very quickly again. So yeah, time is just a weird concept, but I did manage to read some books, even though it was not the reading month I had anticipated. This was also the month where my friend Clio hosted the Gamenightathon, so I will link her channel down below, and I recommend you go and check it out. If you want to hear more about the game that we played for the readathon, then you can watch my reading vlogs as well. Okay, let's start out with some stats, and when we talk about the numbers here, I do have to tell you about a little change that I have made. So, usually I begin all of these videos by saying that at the beginning of the year I had 23 books on my TBR. Now that has actually changed because I have a book that I hadn't officially put on my TBR because I wasn't sure whether I actually wanted to read it because it's kind of an heirloom book, but then it worked quite well for Read It Short, so I did end up reading it. So I did have to adjust the numbers so it makes sense. So this is why I will now start out saying I started the year with 24 books on my TBR. So this will obviously affect all of the stats I'm going to mention now. So if you are watching my wrap-ups like right one after the other for some reason, now you know why the numbers are different. But I started out July with 38 books on the TBR, which is a little bit high. I would like to be under 20, which is like, let's not even think about that. So now let's see whether I was actually able to reduce that number in July. So first of all, we're looking at the number of books that I have finished reading, and that was a whooping 11 this month, which sounds like a lot, but a lot of them were very, very short, so don't get your hopes up too high. Then we have the number of books that I bought or received, and that is 4, and that is not completely my fault because I did have friends who gifted me books, so you're at fault too, and you know who you are. I'll hold you accountable. And then for books that I borrowed in July, I borrowed 1 book from the library in July. Now, so far that sounds really nice. We have 11 books read and 5 books coming onto the TBR. However, it's not quite so nice because I reread 6 books. 6 books in July. So actually, if we take that all together, we realize that I haven't reduced the TBR at all. I am exactly at the same number still, and that is 38 books on the TBR, which is not the huge success that I was hoping for. So yeah, we are still very, very high with the TBR. Actually, it's almost at its highest for the year, which is not great. And I really hope August will be the month to turn this around because this is not going in the right direction, you guys. Okay, so let's quickly leave those awful numbers behind and let's talk about the books that I did read. And the first book I finished in July was my audiobook, Blood of Dragons by Hobb. Now, I am tiring a little bit of talking about this series because I have been reading it for so many months now and I kept repeating and repeating it. But this is the 4th and final book in the Wild Chronicles by Hobb, which is one of the series in the bigger realm of the Elderlings. I do have a complete reading vlog. Actually, I have 2 because I was yapping so much that I had to split it into 2 parts. So if you want to hear me yap about this series, then please go and check out those reading vlogs. I'm just here to say I did like the finale. It didn't completely deliver everything that I wanted. I can totally see why a lot of people say that the Rain Wilds is the weakest series within the realm of the Elderlings, but I still had a lot of fun with it, and Robin Hobb just writes really good books. And in the end, I gave this one 4 stars. And then the next book I finished was a huge success for me and something I have been trying to do for so many months now. I finished reading the notes in the Grimm's Fairytales. This is a 3-book set that I own, and I had finished reading volumes 1 and 2, which had all of the fairy tales, but I hadn't completely finished reading all of the notes, so I have now officially done it. And with that, this was the last pre-2025 book on my TBR. So all the books on my TBR are now from last year or this year, which is such an amazing thing. I never thought I would do this because I don't unhaul unread books. So I really read all of the books that I hauled ever, which is great. I'm just gonna rate the complete set overall as 4 stars. I'm very glad that I own this and that I've read it. I think this is an amazing piece of, German literature. Everyone knows Grimm's fairy tales. We don't necessarily know all of the Grimm's fairy tales, but at least now I can say that I have read them all as they were collected by the Brothers Grimm, and as we found out in the notes, by their wives and their friends, and a lot of women that do not get credit, as always. So then my friend Xenia from the channel Xenia and the Books, which I will link down below, decided to start reading Hunger Games. And I just had to join in because I love the Hunger Games. I wanted to reread them last year when I read the Sunrise on the Reaping, but I didn't manage to actually do that. So I thought this is the perfect opportunity. So I'm just going to talk about all 3 right now. So I reread the whole trilogy this month, which is pretty cool. I also read them for the first time in English because I do own German copies. You can't see them, they're like one shelf above. But yeah, I read the English copies for the first time, and I just love the series so much. I gave each book 5 stars because they're all perfect to me. I think Suzanne Collins really did something with this series, and my vlog for the rereading project will be up next, so if you don't want to miss that, you can subscribe to my channel and you'll be the first one to see when this goes up. Now, if for some reason you have no idea what the Hunger Games is about, we follow Katniss Everdeen in a world where there has been a terrible war, there aren't like that many humans left, and they live in Panem, a society that is created very unequally. We have the capital where the people are rich, and then we have the individual districts who are working for the wealth of the capital. And to remind people that this is how it is supposed to be, we have the Hunger Games where each district has to send 2 tributes every single year, and those are all teenagers, a male and a female tribute to the Hunger Games, and there the kids have to fight to the death, and Katniss finds herself being the tribute of District 12. So then the Read It Short readathon happened. That is also hosted by my friend Clio, and this time the Read It Short and Gamenightathon were integrated into each other, and I read a couple of books for that, and the whole idea is to read short books, and we did have some prompts as well that I tried to fit, and this is the heirloom book I was talking about. This is a book that belonged to my great-great-grandfather, and it is Freund und Adler by Dr. Alice Rühle-Gerstel. So this book is 100 years old. Not just the book, but this book is over 100 years old. And so this is a book about Sigmund Freud and whatever the Adler guy had as a first name. I actually don't remember right now. Doesn't matter. But yeah, basically it's about psychotherapy and psychoanalysis and all of that. And yeah, it's a really, really old book, and it was so cool to read. And I even have like little comments in it that unfortunately I cannot read, which is really sad. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience reading this, especially since I'm really interested in psychology and thinking about like my great-great-grandfather, who was literally a farmer, and for some reason he was interested enough to buy this book about psychology 100 years ago. It's like mind-boggling to me. So I guess this book, as it is, I would give like 3.5 stars. It's a very, very broad and simple introduction into these psychology concepts, but if you've never really touched upon them, then it is quite interesting to see them condensed down in this way. And for the rest of Read It Short, I had 3 more rereads, and those were the Cheese Sweet Home manga. So I've reread volume 5, 6, and 7. I have been meaning to do this reread kind of monthly, but then I always start falling behind. So to catch up back to July, which is the 7 months, I had these 3 volumes to read, so I thought I could use them perfectly for the readathon to get some points, and it was quite lovely. I think I gave each one of these 3.5 stars. They're not my favorite volumes. This is kind of the arc where Cheese starts to go outside more and meet up with other cats and all of that, and it doesn't focus so much anymore on the family and kind of the aspects of like how do you even take care of a small cat. So that's why I don't love these as much as some of the earlier volumes. And I forgot to mention my audiobook, which I actually finished before Read It Short, and that was the Dungeon Anarchist's Cookbook by Matt Dinniman. This is book 3 in the Dungeon Crawler Call series, and I really liked this one as well. We are in this one in the 4th level of the dungeon. If you've never heard of Dungeon Crawler Call, we follow Call and Donut. Call is a human and Donut is his ex-girlfriend's cat, who was kind of like a show cat, so she went to all of these like competitions and stuff. And at the beginning of the first book, kind of the world ends, and Call and Donut get the opportunity to enter the dungeon, which is a televised competition, also kind of like to the death. So very few humans will have the chance to survive if they fight their way through the dungeons. And now we're on level 4. We have made some friends, we have made some enemies in high places, but also within the dungeon. And so is just the journey of these characters. And we had some very shocking moments in this 3rd book, like moments I didn't think we would get so early on in the series, to be fair. We also had some very heartfelt moments. We had a very sad moment for sure. And so yeah, this book had a lot. It's like very action-packed, very fun, but it doesn't glance over completely over the more complex emotions that our characters feel and kind of the complex relationships that can build within the dungeon. So overall, I really enjoyed this one as well, and I gave it 4 stars. And then the last book I need to talk about is one of my biggest achievements of the month, even though it looks tiny, and that is Great Italian Stories. This is a short story collection of 10 Italian stories edited by Jhumpa Lahiri. And in this one, we do have the original Italian text as well as the English text. And what I really wanted to do with this was go through and actually try to read the Italian text before I read the English translation. Now, I knew that I wasn't at a level yet where I would be able to understand the Italian stories on just like reading the Italian text. However, I was quite surprised that for some of these stories, I did manage quite well to understand what was going on and what the story was about just by reading the Italian version. With others, depending on kind of like the vocabulary and also the complexity of the language, I definitely needed to read the English translation as well to fully understand what was going on. But it was a really fun experience. I would give this collection 3 stars because I didn't really love the stories. There were 2 in here that I enjoyed quite a bit. The 2 I did enjoy were Nome e Lacrime by Elio Vittorini, as well as Invito a Pranzo by Alba de Cespedes. But the other stories really weren't for me. But the experience of reading it was definitely really cool. With that, I have also finished 2 more books that would have been do in this quarter of the year, because I have this like 12-month goal of like reading my TBR books before I have owned them for more than 12 months. I did have this one as well as the third Dungeon Crawler Call to read very soon, so they wouldn't reach the 12-month limit, and I did that. And with the Grimm's Fairy Tale, I even added a third book that was overdue in a sense. And so with that, I'm now on track with the TBR as well, which is like super exciting. And I don't have any overdue books anymore. All the books I now have that I owned pre-2026 are my Christmas books. So with those, I can kind of take my time until Christmas with like reading them and like spreading them out a little bit. And with that, we have reached the end of this video. I hope it was interesting. I hope you enjoyed watching. In the comments down below, feel free to let me know what was your favorite read of July. Was it a new book or a reread as well? Because my favorites were definitely the Hunger Games books, and rereading them with my friend Xenia was just amazing. But I also feel so good about doing some of the like TBR reads as well. So I had a good time, even though it was kind of like a very interesting month. And I will talk to you again very soon. Bye!